Well, I guess my question goes back to, I want to just add on to what Maureen had to say, is that what's the genesis of these rules? We have Peg Rogers. We don't. There's a lot of Peg Rogers. So your middle initial, we're not aware of what that is. Is it? So do you actually sit that? And I don't mean to pick on Peg, but her name is on here. So does Peg just sit in her office and go tappity tap tap? Okay, House Bill 171284, and go back and forth and compare and write these rules, or is there a team that works with her and says, we've investigated these, or we've looked at these and we've done our research, or is this really written by the Attorney General?
Right, because at HCPF, just to compare different departments that I work with, they actually have a meeting before the rules are introduced, and you sit down with the people that write the rules. I don't know if you know this, but they call it like a pre-introduction meeting, and I can go and say, why did you put that in there? And it's before it's ever introduced, and so you actually can see the people that write the rules, but I don't know who's writing the rules here, so thanks for following up. I kind of got off on my rant.
because HCPF does the settings rules, and there's lots of stakeholder input. We're going to have another meeting on the Waiver Implementation Council, and here's the discussion points, and we'll be here for 2 hours, and public is advised, and we're going to have discussion because this is important, and maybe because Centers for Medicare Services is involved, but I know Mindy's jumping up to want to respond, so.
Yeah, so I think what you're asking is, taking a step back, how did these rules get developed?
Yes.
The very genesis of it, how does it begin? Yes.
Right, okay, so to clarify, House Bill 1284 passed last legislative session. There were a number of stakeholders during the process of that bill where Hospital Association, right, the Alliance, other groups that reached out to us and gave us feedback as we were working on that bill. So we had a list of those stakeholders, those lobbyists, those individuals who had already expressed interest. And then in addition to that, we had groups like Disability Law Colorado, the ARCs, our Commission on Aging, Senior Lobby, different groups that would have a vested interest in rules like this. And so what we did was we provided information to them. We held a session in October. So Maureen, had we known about you and your interest in APS at that time, I would have included you on that list.
So you don't publicly announce those lists because HCPF does. They post it and they put out a department announcement about upcoming meetings that you can go to. You don't do that here. It's a private invitation only.
No, so anyone is welcome to attend that meeting, and I think we had it on the public meetings calendar. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was on the public meetings calendar. And so the folks.
So it was all created in that group, or did someone come up with a draft first?
No, so what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, I'm taking us way back, right? Like before any drafts were even put on paper. And so we held a meeting then and said, here's what House Bill 1284 did. Here's the rules that are required. The department must, it says in statute, the department must develop rules on due process, on the CAPS check, etc. So before we start drafting those rules, are there any feedback or questions or, information that you'd like to provide us? So we gathered that information. We then, Peg and her team drafted what would that look like on paper, got something on paper. They sent it to me,
And so who's her team? Who's her team? Is it attorneys or is it?
No, so the two, well, actually, one of them wasn't here at the time, but her staff. So people who work for her on her staff. So we have.
So are they attorneys or are they? I don't know what they are.
They're APS specialists is their title. Okay. And so we drafted that, and then we everything's in draft form at that point. We review it internally, all draft. If we have specific questions, we reach out to our Attorney General partners, ask them, how would this work, that sort of thing. Then we engage counties because counties administer the APS program, and so it makes sense for them to provide us feedback on that. So the task group, the APS task group, the sub-PAC, and the PAC is the structure for getting county input. It's not the structure for getting other stakeholder input, it's simply the structure for getting county input. So we work through that process of working through them with the APS task group and then the sub-PAC and the PAC to get approval through that. And that simply means that's the county's recommendation to the department on what these rules should look like. And then since you attended the December state board meeting, we were aware of additional stakeholders, you and others, So we've provided additional opportunities for other folks to have input. So that's sort of the process that we use. And then, of course, before any rules go to the state board, there is an AG review. So that AG, before first reading, has an opportunity to say, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense, or that's not, nothing. Legal, yeah.
Kind of like the social security number that was looked through, I guess, when they reviewed it the first time.
So no, that would be legal. It's not, because all the proposed rule said was that the APS caseworker should ask for it. So it would be legal for them to ask for it.
Except our feedback was they were demanding it. And they were told they agreed.
In practice, yeah.
In practice, they were always saying it was already a rule and they had to have it. So some, not all, but some feedback that Maureen was getting from families and individuals is that they were already jumping the gun as if the rule was already in place.
Right.
So, because Maureen has a widespread distribution of on her email list and has for quite some time. So I'm surprised that none of those organizations that you mentioned, would have said, hey, have you talked to Maureen? There are several other advocates that represent families and vice versa, or interested people interested in doing this. So I'm surprised none of them responded or distributed.
It's really weird.
Yeah, because see, like the ARC,
They don't.
ARC,
they're like
how
this-
many people does the ARC have membership?
Well, they don't represent all
I know,
IDD
they
individuals.
only represent
Only
like
individuals that
pay
have
membership fee.
membership.
That
So
have
all
very
those groups that you
small.
mentioned,
very small.
Very small.
I'm not a member of any of them.
Right.
So that's the thing, and we do have a listserv. There's a family listserv statewide
Several
that HIPCUP
thousands.
puts all kinds of stuff out, and nothing was on that listserv. It goes out to 4,000 families, parent to parent, through the Parent Resource Center, which is a federally mandated requirement of IDEA law. So
And that's just one of her
and I have my newsletter and my website. So anyway, I just think that looking back and doing like a postmortem of the process, I think that being more inclusive would just benefit. So that would go smoother through the whole process. So I appreciate the information because it's a little bit of a mystery to us out here, like how things come about and how